Welcome to TerryWilson3.com, home of TW3. Are you ready to take your money, business, and life to the next level? You are worth more, and you're about to hear how and why. So buckle up and listen up as we journey to the next level. Please welcome your guys to reach your goals, the TW3 family.
Here's your host, Terry Wilson.
That's right, episode 544 of the TW3 podcast. We're talking about funny business. Funny business. And I've got a funny man himself in the studio with me, Mr. Chris Ruppe at chrisruppe.com. How you doing, funny man?
I'm doing spectacular. It's been a while. 544 episodes. That's all I heard. 544 episodes.
544 episodes.
I feel exhausted just hearing the number.
Good Lord. You ought to try to do it. Nah, it's been fun though. It's been a ride. If you had told me years ago this, I'd still be doing this, I'd be like, really?
You've been doing it for 544 times.
544, which represents about once a week, sometimes twice a week. And starting out in
start trying to extrapolate that. So it's been a couple of years.
It's been for 14 years.
You did 544 in 14 years. I guess that's about right.
I can't spell, so.
Yeah, you probably didn't do 52 a year, so 52 going out. It's about 10 years or
10, 11 years.
12 years, and then you probably missed a week or two here and there. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's a long time. It's a lot of podcasts. That was before podcast was podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I got turned on by podcasting by a guy named Cliff that's sort of considered the OG of podcasting. Mm-hmm. You know, that's what his whole shtick was teaching people podcasting back in the day.
I've heard of him a few times in my journeys.
And what's so weird is now we're buddies. Someone I just heard on
what is that? Cliff
Ravenscraft.
He's the podcaster, teaches podcasting.
That's what he used to do. Now he's into mindset coaching and those kinds of things. But good guy. But hey, we have got a project coming up that I wanted to get you on because this sort of dovetails with what we advocate here a lot with our entrepreneurs. You know, a lot of times business can come across boring, and it can be boring, especially if it's something traditional, insurance, real estate, direct sales, contracting, all this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what we always say is, listen, you can find anything that you love and build a business around it.
Right.
And that's what you've done. And we're going to be able to do a little joint venture off of that.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast.
So what have you been doing for the last couple of years? You started off in one career and you're still in that, but you're doing something else.
Yes, I have slowly been shifting over to comedy.
Well, I think you've always been there. It's just the stadium or the room has changed.
Yeah, and that's a big deal because, you know, it's one thing to be funny. And a lot of people say, oh, I have a cousin who's funny. He should do comedy. And I was probably told that maybe some because I try to be funny all the time, but it's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really realized it. I had a desire back when I was pretty young. I've always said off and on over the years, I was like, man, you know, maybe one day I'd like to just go and do an open mic. I just wanted to, it's sort of one of those, what do you call it? Your bucket list items.
Yeah.
So one day when
the kids are grown. And
so I got to do it by solely because of a fundraising idea. Me and my wife have a foundation that helps raise money for adoptions. And so we did our first fundraiser about, 5 years ago. And the hook on it was, I said, well, what we'll do to raise money for it is we'll do a comedy show, and the draw will be I'm going to get up, and it's a no-lose situation. You're either going to laugh at me because I'm funny, or you're going to laugh at me because I bombed.
Either way, you're going to get a laugh.
You're getting a laugh. And if you're a good friend of mine, you can remind me of it regularly. So I went at it, and that's what we did. And I did it that day, fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
That is cool.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is very cool. So here's something that you're passionate about, and you're in this one career path, and it's something you're just like, it might be, and then boom, you're doing it. And you just designed a brand new website that just looks great. The design on it's just awesome. ChrisRuppe.com, RUPPE.com.
Yep.
Chris Ruppe, and you're using some of the TW3 tools.
I'm using, I guess, all of them.
Yeah.
But I'm hosting it through there, and I'm using the back end, the software to generate all my
your leads.
Contacts, leads, follow-ups, and tested it, and it all is working. And I've actually booked 2 shows through it already. So
that is awesome.
Not too bad.
Yeah. So guys, no matter what business you're in, it all comes down to this. You got to have people.
Yes.
You got to have people to make laugh or make cry or preach at or teach at or whatever, but it requires people. So I love it. Well, I am excited about this new podcast you and I have been talking about for probably over a year now.
Yeah.
And
this is for both of us.
Yeah, this is a
passion area.
Yeah, it really is. You're doing it professionally. I just do it, when I get behind the pulpit.
Yeah, I would want to do this podcast even if I wasn't doing comedy. Now, I do hope that the podcast generates some leads and drives some
it feeds
traffic.
that.
But heck, man, this is going to be fun. Even if only 10 people watch it, we're going to do it regardless.
This is a vanity project for sure.
Exactly.
We're doing it for our entertainment.
That's right.
But if you want to sign up for this new podcast, you can go over to WTFpodcast.fun. That's WTF.
Careful there.
Podcast.fun. Now, what could 2 pastors, 2 Christians come up with? What could that stand for?
Yeah, it's your doing, man. I'm not going to take credit for that.
The whole premise of the show is, why is this funny?
Yes.
We're comedy nerds, and we're just going to break down different comedy bits from our favorite comedians and different things that we think is funny.
Right.
And just nerd out on it.
Yep.
Just break it down, talk about the chord structure, the rhythm, the timing, the key it's in, everything.
Why'd we like it? And in some cases, it's just freaking hilarious.
Yeah. But why is it? But it's very interesting. Why is this making me laugh?
Yes.
Yep. And different things make different people laugh.
Well, I'm curious of what yours are going to be. That's probably what, I'm sure it's going to be.
Well, I've got one teed up for you.
Oh,
I've got here's one of my favorite jokes of all time.
All right.
Now, I'm going to warn everyone that this is potentially, if you take your politics serious, could be offensive.
Uh-oh.
But this is the reason why I think it's funny, because
so you're going controversial.
It's controversial.
Podcast, not even the actual podcast.
Yeah.
Leading up to the podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going straight in, but this is one of my all time, because I just think, and we'll talk about, but here's what the comedian said. Trump is such a racist dope. He almost tempted me to vote for a woman.
Wow.
Now, I love that.
You know what that, before you play it, I generally don't have any idea what you're getting ready to play.
I didn't have it. I don't have it keyed up to play.
Oh, okay. You're not playing it.
I'm not playing it.
You're reading it. Well, let me guess who it is.
Okay. You'll probably know.
Is it Bill Burr?
Yes.
Because only Bill Burr could get away with that.
Yeah, but
it's so bad.
Without his voice, we won't. I'll go ahead and give you my reaction. I like the fact that he, in one joke, offended both sides.
Oh, he offended everybody.
He offended everyone with one joke.
Which is normal. So you don't know if you hate him or love him. It's like, it's true. You're saying it's true, but which part?
Exactly. Right. So it doesn't matter if you were a Hillary, because this was back during 2016, of course.
Oh, okay. Well, that's context.
Context
really
is everything. So it's during the 2016 election.
Read it one more time.
So during that race between Trump and Hillary Clinton, he came out and said Trump is such a racist dope. He is almost tempting me to vote for a woman.
Almost tempted me. It's not that he's going to vote for a woman. He would rather vote for a racist.
But that's what I'm saying.
There's so many nuances.
There's so many layers.
Pregnant on that one.
There's so many layers in that thing.
He is so racist and what?
He's such a racist dope.
Racist dope.
He has almost tempted me to vote for a woman. So on the front part of the joke, he's coming after racism, But on the back side of the joke, he's okay with being
a misogynist.
A misogynist. I mean,
wow, that's a lot. You said a lot in that sentence. That's good. That's a great line. That is a great joke.
Now it's a joke. I don't mean none of that from back to front, and I don't know. And I know it's just the structure of that joke is so brilliant to me.
Yeah. The almost to me is one of my favorite words in the whole joke is almost.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Because he said, I decided to vote for a woman. Almost. One, I'm a misogynist, but I'm not even sure. I would rather be a racist than vote for a woman.
That's what I'm saying. That there is so much in that.
That's terrible.
It's just terrible.
Yeah, that's a great joke. So that's perfect. And that's a one-liner. We're not going to look at one-liners necessarily. We might look at a whole bit.
Yeah.
But that one line, we could have done just that one line. Do you know where he did it at?
Yeah, I think he did that in, I can look it up here.
Like who allowed him to do it? Because I do know that when you go.
No, he did that on a show. He did that on Conan's show.
Really?
When he was being, it wasn't even on one of his stand-ups.
So he just, during the interview, said it.
Yeah, because he had just, he recorded his episode during the 2016 build-up. I think that one was down in Atlanta.
Well, the interesting thing about that is,
or Nashville.
Well, he can get away with it. They like him coming on because he's so controversial. I mean, one of my favorite things that he did that one time when he talked about he offended so many people, the military thing.
Yes,
and he like the guy got on the plane and they all like applauded this guy for his service, and there's like, that just doesn't make sense to me. What if he's the guy who's like just changing the tire on the airplanes? I mean, is he really a hero? I mean, I'm really going to stand up.
He was getting into the degrees of valor.
He's getting paid to change a tire. I don't think you're a hero at all. If you were, fighting, flying that plane,
sure,
into battle, and you got shot at, okay, well, you can have my seat.
But see, those
and
waters.
Then straight from that, I think just something about a fat guy sitting next to him or something. I mean, on that joke, he offended like.
That's what I'm saying. Watching him is like watching a guy on a high wire act. Because there's sharks on either side, and he is just like, and to me, it's just brilliant.
Well, his Netflix special was over the top. This last one, it was good though.
Oh yeah, are you being safe?
Yeah, so
all the way to the end where he says, "Now I know I've been controversial, so let's land this where we are." And then he said, "Let's talk about something less controversial. We can all go home and be friends and not arguing." Abortion. His closing bit was,
and it's hilarious because again, that he took the same technique as in that joke, except for he did a lot of it.
Yeah.
He hits on both sides. One, you have no clue. Well, he kind of does say where he stands, but then he says he's probably wrong, which is hilarious.
That's what I'm saying.
Even
he never commits.
No,
there's no commitment on any of that.
Very well played. And and a lot of people that get offended by that stuff, I think it's one of the things I think that's good about it.
Yeah.
And why comedy can do what nothing else can do. One, it gets everybody in the room to laugh a little bit and relax.
Yeah.
But two, it exposes both sides and the foolishness of the both sides.
Yeah.
Which in this day and time, because Louis C.K. also did a very similar joke about abortion.
Yeah.
As that one.
And the premise is almost the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say it's exactly the same because he did the exact same thing and went both sides, and then basically he sides with the one side, and then the both of them's big comment is, "But you are killing a baby," and that's the switch to the other side real quick.
Just to
it's great, very brilliant writing. And like you said earlier, it's really important to understand we're not really talking about politics.
No, I don't care. Yeah.
It's the technique.
It's I just appreciate. The brilliance of that, the writing and the whole premise to me is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It makes you think. It just does.
And that's the goal of comedy.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen, I don't know if I can even recommend it. It's pretty hard to, it's pretty strong, but the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yes. I watched every episode.
great in that, and the story of it kind of dances in the real world. You know, it's a story, but
yeah,
it's got a lot
it
of
had
real
what's his
characters.
face in it, an actor playing the comedian.
I can't believe we're not going to remember his name because he's the godfather of. Again,
he was the godfather of dirty comedy, basically.
Yes, and you probably wouldn't like him and a lot of what he said in the day, but what he pushed the limits on free speech, trying to explain that when you have free speech, you know, you can't then pick and choose what's free and what's not free. You have to kind of own it as far as, you know, outside of danger. But but he ended up really pushing that whole limit. And the show kind of deals with Lenny Bruce. Yeah,
he was the predecessor to Carlin.
Yes. He was and even Carlin wouldn't take credit for what Bruce did. Funny, Carlin's a funny one because he started out as, you know, clean suit and tie guy, hitting a circuit. And boy, he full turn, clean cut, a whole bit.
He did the whole 180 he went hippy dippy. And that was one of his.
Man, again, you know, he's a tough one to listen to if you don't like dirty. But man, if you can 7 words you can't say on
that's brilliant.
It's just and then he says
if you can get,
and he had it down to like a rhythm too.
Yeah, and that's what I because you know, Gina, your sister doesn't like some of the language, and I totally get it.
Yep,
totally understand. But if you can get past that just for a moment and analyze the thought process behind like the 7 words you can't say, and really challenging the thinking behind it, it's funny. It's hysterical.
And it's not just funny, it's educational. Why do we pick these words? And there's other things. And I think it's good for all of us to be careful about what we latch on to. And I'm not necessarily, I'm clean and I feel like, you know, that's my path. But I think it's good
unapologetically clean. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a higher form of comedy.
Oh yeah. It's more work for sure.
Yeah.
I don't got the relief valve that some guys have when something's not working. You just drop
it's a cheap
this or drop that. But it's the thinking is how do we choose certain ones and why we can't do certain things. You know, it's just, and it's really helped me out a lot because I have value because a lot of comics won't do clean. So
right.
You know, there's people that'll hire me that won't hire those guys in heartbeat. I just did a couple of shows just for that very reason. You know, it's like
because
I'm clean and the other guys weren't.
If I chose to pursue comedy myself, I would definitely take that path. Even though I love Bill Burr and I love some of these other guys and I can laugh at it and it don't bother me. For me personally, I just think it is a higher art form to me.
Right.
And, you know, and then that way everybody from every walk of life can enjoy it. Because Jerry Seinfeld, we just saw him a couple of years ago, back before, I think it was the year before COVID. So it was like 2019. He came to Asheville. He killed, absolutely murdered that room.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. His,
and he didn't say one curse word.
His Netflix special, the one where he goes back in time, I don't think it's the most recent one. It's the one where he's in New York at the club that he was at.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite. I'm not a huge Seinfeld fan. He actually hurt himself with me back when I watched the show. Love the show. One of my favorite shows of all time. But they would play those clips and I just felt like, he's all right.
Yeah.
But when you watch that and he goes back and pulls the best from all those years and tells his story, that set is money.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the best sets.
Well, he's a wordsmith.
Yeah.
And that brought me, what do you think of that? I was just thinking about, for me personally.
All right.
What makes things funny for me? And so, of course, a good premise.
Yes.
A good premise that's not even a joke. It's a storyline that I can just say, well, it's rich with, you know, it's a target rich environment. Remember the movie with Jim Carrey, Liar, Liar?
Yes.
The premise is a lawyer that has to tell the truth for a day and then function.
Write a whole movie around it.
You can write a whole movie around that premise. Brilliant. Yeah. So I thought delivery, you know, the way someone delivers something, sometimes something innocent can be said, but the timing of it and the inflection of it. And there was something I used to do from the pulpit was I would, during Christmas time, one of my bits, if you'd call it that, was making fun of Winter Wonderland. In the meadow, we can build a snowman. And we'll call him Parson Brown, Preacher Brown. He'll ask, are you married? We'll say, no, ma'am, but you do the job when you're in town. the way you word, it's the inflection.
Right. It's how you say it.
I was using that to say sometimes you can read into scripture and sometimes you can read out of scripture. Right. It's very important not to read in your own prejudice,
Right.
So I use it as a funny illustration of interpreting language. It's a little hermeneutical thing. But here again, that's something I feel like goes into, and then who's the target?
Yes.
Who's the target? Because there's always got to be a butt of a joke.
Right.
The thing about that Bill Burr one is he made fun of Hillary and Trump.
Yeah.
So I just
win if you can always do that.
To me, that's just brilliant. And then of course the language that you use, the timing, the rhythm. Seinfeld's a wordsmith, and so a lot of his stuff's on that. So what would you say goes into?
Well, I mean, on those, there's three parts to a joke. Basically, you got your premise.
Yeah.
What's leading up. Sometimes you'll have a setup that you've got to do. It's premise, setup, punch.
Yeah.
And then you can add tag. But the premise would be, what is it? So sometimes a premise doesn't need to be told, such as like the Trump joke. That's a freebie. It's what's going on.
Yeah,
all the players are there, but sometimes you got to say something to set it up. I mean, you set the premise up, but then you do the setup to the punch, which is a single line that stands on its own, and then the punch then plays off of the other, and then a tag is like the free gift after the fact, another thing that you say or whatever, which for sure, especially with some of the I know a couple of the comics that I'm going to pull that we're going to do. We can actually look at all of those take place and fall apart. I think that how you do each one, there's tricks in the mix. Because some guys, like, in my opinion, Kevin Hart he doesn't always have to do that structure. That's the rules. Right. Those are the rules. But then you can break the rules. The breaking the rules is he's funny in how he talks. Yeah. His actual diction and words and how he does it and his mannerisms, even his stature. Him being a short guy and that whole bit, even the way he carries himself and shakes his head. So he can do a joke and not even have any of those bits and pieces.
But it's that whole delivery. It's his delivery.
Nate Bargatze is probably one of my favorite comics.
Love that guy.
His trick, he actually is a guy who uses a lot of the techniques, but so some comics, their whole shtick is just being sarcastic the whole time.
Yeah.
And Nate's figured out he can, in my opinion, he writes out these great jokes, but then he tells stories, but he weaves in sarcasm, self-deprecation, and all of that. And that's really what makes him so great. So I think those, to me, you got to figure out, and I think comics, it's their, who they are and their personality comes into that. Some that are physical. Yeah. Sebastian is, very physical comic. So, so some of that comes into play.
That whole thing about the neighbors coming or visitors stopping.
Well, don't talk about that one. That's going to be one of our clips. That's, to me, I actually have stole that before because I lived it. Because both my parents are deaf. Even when it wasn't even cool to do it.
That's real to you. That's not.
That's the way they couldn't call each other and to say, "Hey,
stop by.
I'm going to stop by." They just stopped by.
Yeah.
And it happened to me. So we'll definitely talk about it because I'm gonna play that clip for sure.
That's gonna be.
I don't know this is a fact. I'll do research before we do it, but I want to say that was his when he
sort of
shifted, and he, I think he was number one this year, and he's number one, number two, somewhere in there. And gross money, like literal how much money in his pocket came in from touring, 42 million.
Wow.
So he was the big dog. Now the difference
he's sort of
is
like an Italian Seinfeld to me.
Very funny. Yeah. But he throws in the physical.
Yeah.
That's the way he carries himself and does all the Italian stuff. And I think probably, there's other guys that bring in more than him in the sense of per show. They're just not doing as many shows. Like on the list is, we were just talking about him. Why am I forgetting him? Big dog, biggest comedian out there right now. Saturday.
Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle last year only did 11 shows, and he's like in the top 10. That's the difference.
He gets paid.
Does a handful of shows. And he makes the same amount of money.
Yeah.
So
Dave is brilliant though.
He's a master at. And he's a master at, he don't even have to tell a joke in any premise. He can just tell a story.
He just gets up and talks, and it's just.
Yeah. I mean, and again, he didn't do that in the early days. If you find his other early clips,
it's mature.
Everything is much more. But now he is who he is. Right. I'm not going to say the name of this person. But only because I was in the room when it happened. But I was with a comedian who's a big name in more of the Christian comedy world.
Okay.
And very well known. He was a secular guy in the past. So I'm in Texas doing a show. A bunch of us are there hanging out with each other, a bunch of comics, and we just went into one of these like wineries or whatever. We're hanging out together, and we just kind of was doing stand up in front of whoever was there and for each other. And this big name comic gets up and bombs.
Ooh.
Hard.
Ooh.
And what made it great for me was I went up afterwards and crushed. And so, that's my claim to fame. I crushed after
I saved the audience after so-and-so.
Somebody had to do it. But the reason I'm not saying his name is because of this. I in the moment, I'm noticing what's going on. He is used to being in front of big crowds.
Yeah.
And when you're in front of thousands, not hundreds,
right?
Thousands, and you're working a room, it's a lot easier for some of his jokes that he was telling that are not as strong, but it's the way he carries himself. And they just work in bigger crowds, and he has a reputation. So people come in wanting to laugh.
The energy of a big room had become his crutch.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that room where it's a winery and there's 20 or 30 Texans,
you got to work harder.
Some of them are old.
Yeah.
They're not your context. You have to fill the room.
Yeah.
And he forgot how to fill the room.
Yeah. He lost that muscle.
Now, in no way do I think I'm in his league.
Sure.
He's amazing.
But it exposed to you that different rooms are different tempo.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You need to know the room, and I worked the room.
Yeah.
Well, he also bombed, so I knew I had to work the room.
From just preaching all those years, there's a difference between getting up in a sanctuary of thousands.
Oh, yeah.
To a small home group of 20, 30, to a Sunday school class of 100.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just
totally agree.
It's a different energy.
Well, bread and butter for a guy like me, who's not a big name, is corporate.
Yeah.
And so corporate is very similar to what he experienced. When you go to a corporate gig, those people did not pay to come see you. They're at a corporate event, a dinner, a fundraiser, whatever that is.
You're just the
entertainment. And I got to come out to, maybe 40% of the crowd doesn't even like comedy.
Right.
Hates stand-up.
It's like, this is not why I'm here.
Drank too much.
Right.
And then I'm trying to make all of them and bring them all in. And that takes a lot of work. And sometimes, I did one in front of like 500 or 600 in Hickory, North Carolina. And it's a corporation. It's a waste management company.
Yeah.
Not waste management company.
Right.
The big one, but another one. It's
another brand.
And I had that problem. I went in, but a lot of them were the guys who drive the trash trucks.
Oh.
So you got that group in there. Then you got the office people in the room. And then you got, it's just a mix
It's a diverse
people.
Demographic.
Let me tell you.
So
the guys who are driving
poo-poo jokes will fit on one.
And they would have loved it. But the problem is the guys who are driving the trucks, it's free alcohol.
Ooh.
So by the time I got up, they had plenty to drink.
They're ready.
They did not even know. It
Tell
was
a fart
worse.
joke.
It's worse than that. They were so wasted. They didn't even care I was there. And they were having their own conversations during my set.
Oh, man.
Do you honestly think that I'm going to challenge that?
No.
While they're drunk?
No.
That was not going to happen because I knew those guys knew places to bury me that I'd never be found.
You'll never be found. You'd be emulsified by tomorrow.
That was my opening whole joke was the guy who ran the place. I swear to you, I'm not making this up, was from New York. I researched him and he is born and raised in New York, moved here to take over this company. And I don't think I didn't make the mafia connection. I made that
I've seen Sopranos. I know how this works.
I did feel that necessary to get permission before I called him a mafia guy.
Oh,
and I did. He said, "You can roast me all you want," and I did. Yeah, there was a lot of good moments in that one. The funny thing on that one too, some lady, when I was talking, and I said, I did some research on the company and I've learned a little bit about you. And this lady goes, "Oh, did you see me?" I said, "No, man. I saw you on a different site." That's one of my favorite little in the moment quibs.
I'm sure that got a laugh.
Dude. And apparently she must have been the one everybody felt fit. lost. It took me a while to recover. I mean, it was, and then she didn't know what to do. She's trying to protect herself. Dude, it's magic. There's moments like that you just pray for.
Well, there again, it's the target. You pick the right target.
That's right.
Yeah.
But audience is everything, and it's knowing it regardless of what it is, changing in the moment. The hard thing for me in the early days was I worked my set, and I'm not going to deviate. I literally, whatever my set was, I went from beginning to end, and it was exactly in that order because I'm so nervous. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm not comfortable.
All right, so you're clinging to the script.
I did, and it's just now that I get more and more comfortable that you're in the moment. It's like, okay, and even I was doing a show in Atlanta last night, and it was a smaller crowd. Yeah, and I just knew, okay, they're into it. But it was more. So I could just wing it. I did a song that I wrote on the fly. Just pulled out my phone and plugged it in, and just because you could do that, you just know your audience. That audience was into it, and I'm like, I can move it around, and you just feel it out, and it's key to do that. If you don't,
I would imagine doing those corporate gigs are tough, like you said, because it seems to me you almost have to at first sell them on the idea of sitting through a comedy routine.
Yes.
Because they're not there for comedy. Whereas when you go to a club, they bought a comedy ticket.
Correct.
So you're having to do a sales job.
5 minutes has got to be, and what I end up doing is, it sounds stupid, but I go to the website, I start researching the company, find the key players in the company.
Rapport building.
And you try to go in there and make friends.
Yeah.
So if you make fun of the president, okay, this guy's not too bad because we all hate him.
Yeah.
You just find out whatever you can find out, start picking on things, start picking on their business.
Yeah. You got to find some common ground.
If I can get you with me, then maybe you'll listen to me for a little bit.
Well, that's brilliant sales right there. Yeah. That's a sales job is what that is.
It's work. And that's why, but hey, let me tell you something. I tell this to people all the time. Is if you had your picks of the gigs that you're going to take, would that be the gig that you want to do as a comic? Probably not. However, the pay is so much better. It's like, I'll put the work in.
Right.
It's not the crowd I want to, but I'm going to figure out how to make them the crowd I want it to be.
Well, I think that if I was understanding correctly off of some podcast I've listened to, comedy podcast, it's like Jay Leno, that's just about all he does is corporate gigs.
So, funny story. Jay Leno, Christian, my son, was in Vegas last week for a, I guess I can tell this. I don't think it matters. He told me. So he's at this, it's a big banking convention of some sort. So Jay Leno's supposed to, there's a hand select group of people. Somehow he got into that group for a private show and you get to meet, hang out and talk to Jay Leno.
Was this before or after the accident?
So you already know what happened. So he has the accident, so he can't do the show.
Oh.
So they bring in Frank Caliano.
Oh.
The day of. I think the accident must have been that day or whatever.
Yeah, because he had a thing in his garage. He had to have surgery yesterday.
But it was like Wednesday or Thursday,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So whatever the day was.
Major burns.
He was supposed to be the next day. They call Frank and I don't know if I should even say this, but I mean, let's just say it this way. So Frank does it on the spur of the moment. And here's why Jay does only those shows. The amount of pay that they pay those guys, they could have paid him up to a certain amount that is way more. It's a lot of six figures to get Frank there to cover. Flew him in a private jet, which in and of itself, you can imagine.
Yeah.
Just for a small group of people. Hand-selected small group that were guaranteed to hang out and get to talk to and be with the comedian. That's how much they paid him.
Wow.
That's why Jay only does those shows mainly now, because the pay is off the chart. You know, he wants all this free time to do what he loves to do with cars and everything else.
Right. So he's still making his Tonight Show money.
Way more. Just by doing these small one-off gigs here and there.
While he's playing with his cars.
The work that goes into touring, you know, that you've got to hit these cities back to back. You're gone, you know, long, time, long periods of time. That's not appealing to a guy like Jay Leno.
Sure.
I mean, he's retired and he's
paid his dues. So he just wants to go and collect his checks.
Yes. And, it's funny because one of the things I loved about Seinfeld's thing, his special on Netflix, the last one he did, was the whole thing of, do you think I really need to be here?
Yeah, I mean, his opening salvo was, if you were me, would you be up here doing that?
I don't have to do this. I got a lot of money. I mean, I am taken care of. I do this because I want to.
Yeah. Hey, he's funny too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But I'm sure he made sick money on that. But what do you do? I mean, there has got to be a point where you go, yeah, I've got all the money in the world right now.
That to me, I think it goes back to what we're talking about, which is doing what you love to do, and don't chase the money, chase the thing. Your passion. And that is the question. And I am curious about this. I do love it. And even like last night,
it turned weird, and it only ended up having a handful of people at this show. It wasn't a big show. And, a lot of guys would be like, and I thought that way. I'm like, oh crap, man. It's a lot. I'm going to go up here and try to get energy, but they all paid to be there.
Right.
They wanted to be there. And when I get into it and they're having a great time, I'm having a great time. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. That's when you remember. It's like, that's why I do this. Yeah. I don't care if it's 1,000 people or whatever. If a handful of people are in the room and they really want to be in the room and they're laughing and I'm laughing and we're having a good time, which is kind of why I got into this. I love making people laugh, genuinely love making people laugh. And so there's no amount of money. Yeah. That's just what we do. I think the motive that causes you and I to love comedy is the same motive that probably drove us to even ministry to a certain extent. Oh, no question. And it's the same thing that drives me. I don't like doing these conferences we've done. It's just stressful to me. Right. And but then you meet people in an elevator and they're crying about how this has changed. Right. And it's just, that's the why. Right. And when you have a strong why, I forget which philosopher said it, but you can do anything. I totally agree. And it motivates you. It wakes you up. It's why you drive all the way down to Atlanta in this crazy weather that we're having, wet and cold and fighting it. God, if you've never driven through Atlanta, well, just being in Atlanta is a nightmare. That is the definition of hell. Yeah. These gigs I've been taking, take a few of these during the week that I can go, they're like bars and wineries and stuff like that, because I can get stage time to work out new jokes. They don't pay a whole lot, but yeah, I drove probably 12 to 18 hours over the last 3 days. Yeah. To do a couple of shows, but it was well worth it. I think it was a lot of fun. And I get to practice stuff and they don't care. I even tell them, hey, I might work some new jokes and nobody cares. I really have fun and you just do it. That's cool. That's great. I told you my favorite joke. I won't put you on the spot, but do you have one ready that you can say, hey? Yeah. I mean, I've got a bunch. We're going to probably do any of these. The one you'd want to share on. And by the way, guys, if you like this type of conversation and you like what we're doing here, this is what we're going to do over at WTFpodcast.fun. Make sure you go over there and sign up and join our list over there, because once these shows start coming out, you'll be the first to get alerted to them. Chris and I are working on promoting or producing them, that is, in the next coming weeks, and we're going to have different comedians coming in. We're going to be evaluating different comics that we like, and it's all around comedy and all that. And for you TW3 members that are listening today, as you always faithfully do, and you're saying, what does this have to do with business, Terry? Well, I'm illustrating to you right now before your very eyes how you can do whatever it is you love, and build a business around it, because Chris and I both have got different ways that we're going to be monetizing this going on. That's what I was going to say. We could talk about that for a second before I jump into mine. Sure, go ahead. If you won't. And so, as a comedian, I need to create content constantly and have it on my feeds. Right. And so that, people see it, I stay relevant. The people that are followers of mine gets new content. And so I need podcasts like this to create content to put on to my social media sites and to use to promote my brand, right? To get leads for shows, which is no different than any business. Everything is about get a lead, follow up on the lead, try to land a lead, and close them, and close it, and get in there. And the product you're selling is a ticket. To me, it's a ticket. For me, actually, it's a show. Right. My preference, it could be both, but or swag, I'm trying to book. I'm trying to get places to book me. So that's one product. Second product would be to convince somebody to come to one of those shows that I'm doing. Or then third, like I said, is product and whatever. I don't know. We haven't really talked about this. I don't know if the podcast itself could produce revenue, but if it did, then you monetize the delivery system if it's doable. Yeah. And there'll be other ways that we can monetize via trying to use the podcast itself to pitch products. Whatever. Well, one of the ways I had thought immediately about the way we could monetize it, of course, TW3 would be a sponsor. Right.
And so anybody that would be listening to just comedy that has nothing to do with business, never thought about business, but maybe they're in business out there, but they're listening to this podcast for the sheer entertainment of it. Then they hear the website that Chris uses, the software that he uses and everything. And this is the same thing I do, and it's promotion, and it's all that. Plus the platform we're putting it on over at Spotify, once you get up to so many numbers, they will actually start asking you, do you want to pre-roll it? Which means they put an advertisement right up front before it gets started. And forever, however many downloads you get X amount and things like that. So there's various ways there as well.
You just got to think about what you're passionate about, then how do you put it out there, and how to use it to roll and make money out of it.
Chase the passion.
That's right.
Not the penny, and then the pennies will come.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what. So what you were going to talk about your favorite?
I would say that I'll do this one. I mean, I have several that are going to be on the podcast. So I won't bring them up, but I will do one that I probably will still have on there. That probably was the time that I was like, this is something.
So this is your joke. This is a joke.
No. This is somebody that it was the time in my head that flipped me to think, I want to do this. Yeah. And it's Sinbad.
Okay. Love Sinbad.
So Sinbad was back, I'm a little older. He was on the show similar to America's Got Talent, but it was back then. I don't know. I forgot it, but he wins
talent search. It was a talent search type deal.
Yeah. Star Search.
Yeah.
And he does that. Jim, I think McMahon was I said Jim McMahon. It's not Jim. Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
He was doing the show. So he wins that one. I start following him. I liked him, and he had a comedy special. I was living in Fort Worth, and me and my wife, I guess had in a VHS. We put it in. It's his comedy special. And he's in it. It was out of Atlanta when he did it. And he has a bit in there that to me, what it articulates, what was so cool about it and what about comedy really works when it connects with something. That's why sometimes people say things that are just obvious.
Yeah.
But you find it funny because you personally
it resonates with you.
And the one that hit me was he does a whole thing about, and we'll play it on the podcast just to give you a heads up. But he does a whole bit about his mother spanking him. That's just off the chart. The whole concept was his dad went out of town on a business trip.
Yeah.
In that moment, he had confidence. He wasn't there.
He could run the roost.
And he had forgot. He just forgot for a moment. He just slipped, and she told him, he didn't cut the grass, and she said, you need to cut the grass before your dad gets home. And he goes, well, he's not here, is he? and he goes on this whole tangent that is absolutely brilliant about what his mom does to him. And we'll play it when we do it. But to me, Sinbad and his relatability, he has a lot of those same techniques. One, he tells stories, which is what I love. I'm a storyteller too.
Yeah.
And there's stories that mine might not all be relatable, but there's stories that you can at least go, oh yeah, that's great. And then his physical humor to the way he talks, the way he carries himself, everything he does is just, to me, was masterful. He's not doing as much. I know he got sick at some point, but
yeah, I think he had a struggle with cancer or something.
Yeah. So he was out for a little bit,
but he's funny. He's one of those guys that you're right. The delivery is just,
well, he's my surprise one, because most people wouldn't think Sinbad would be in my top list. But my reason is, he generally is regardless, because I do think he's a very great comic. But the specific thing was, it was at a moment in time where I said, that interests me.
Yeah.
I would like to do comedy. I don't think I in my wildest dreams ever thought that I could ever even pull it off.
Right.
It wasn't one of those things I said, oh, I'm going to do it. It was one of those, I wish I could do it. Type of things. But I knew, how would I ever do comedy? It was just so foreign to me, which is stupid. And if anything, we learned a lesson is don't always cast aside the ideas, because it took me, from that point to this point, probably another 20 years, 25 years before.
But the seed was sown, and it was there. And
you just gotta have the guts to sometimes pursue your passions.
I think
you gotta have guts or stupidity.
Well, there's a little bit of both, probably.
Yeah, you gotta be a little crazy.
Yeah, that's what I told someone the other day. We was talking about persistence. I said, sometimes you just got to be like me. You're too stupid to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
You're just too stupid to quit. I think art that makes you feel is going to have an impact. And it's that whole Maya Angelou quote, where we often forget what people say, but we never forget how they make us feel. And some of the most memorable messages that I've ever heard a pastor preach or a speaker speak is something that moved me, made me laugh, did something, because I go back to, and I'm old, just like you. Old school.
I'm a little older than you.
Well, Jerry Clower. I mean, that's old school.
Oh, I saw Jerry Clower a lot.
But he's, that.
Shoot that thing.
Shoot up here, Marcel. I say Marcel. But those
ICC, isothermal communication.
Yeah. but those guys, I mean, I think it has to be something you resonate with.
Yes.
And of course, we're people of the South, so his dialect, the way he carries, is just like, okay, I get that. And sometimes you can say things that you can hear things that you don't agree with, but because they made you laugh, they made you think.
Right.
And it's a powerful tool.
Right.
I don't know why any person that wants to have influence, and I mean, we're bringing it back to business, the more you can get people to lower their guard and hear your argument,
right,
the better served.
Right. Yeah. I mean, punching somebody in the face never works. That's what I got a whole joke on about social media. It's that there are people who actually think that their post is going to will make a difference anywhere. It doesn't make it. All you've done is probably push away people that love you dearly. And
it's depressing.
Put fire under people who don't need any more fire under them. To
me, it's the psychological breakdown of society.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the key to it, and for me, it's when those people are up there. The word I've always used is passion. You can tell the difference in a person who has passion about something and someone who doesn't. Yeah, and we are inspired. We're challenged. And we like, and we're drawn to people of passion.
Well, I'm compelled to change when I see and I'm around people that,
even if you don't agree with it, you can at least go, I respect that. And I think if you love what you do and you're passionate about it, it will show somehow. Now, me and you were both a little bit more gregarious, so it's going to come out in our physical language.
Sure.
But for some, it might be in how they do it and how well they do something and the vigor in which they do something. But passion always shows to the positive or to the negative.
Sure. Absolutely.
And so you can just evaluate your situation and tell whether or not you're where you need to be if you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. But it's powerful, man. And I love it. And I hope people will follow us over there at WTFpodcast.fun. That's WTFpodcast.fun. We're going to be talking about why is this funny? We're going to break it down. And, I can already tell for me, it's going to help me understand a little bit more about myself. Because a lot of times what makes you laugh is very telling.
Yes, very much so. Very much. You're going to learn a lot about each other.
Yeah.
And how sick we are and how depraved or how brilliant.
My oldest daughter, I'm telling you right now, sometimes I cringe at things she laughs at because her sense of humor is, the best way to describe it is schadenfreude. If someone gets hurt, she is going to laugh hysterically. I mean, she loves if I fall down those steps, I hope someone's here other than Gabrielle to help me.
Well, she has a funny laugh too, Ellen herself. So that doesn't help anything. And when you're hurt, it's a little annoying.
Listen, I cut the tip of my finger off a couple of years ago, and she was over on the couch laughing hysterically, and I'm bleeding out, needing someone.
Wow. Maybe that's just her way of coping with bad situations.
I hope, because I know she cares.
Let's give her a little bit of credit. I doubt it because she's a Wilson, but it's possible.
Oh my word! Oh my word! Well, you got any dates you got coming up that you want to promote real quick?
The big thing that's going on right now that I'm pretty excited about. I'll say here, and probably by the time this is released, it'll all be out. But I just I don't know, signed a deal.
Yeah.
That seems a little, whoa, signed a deal. I just made a deal with a guy that we're going to be doing.
Is it huge?
It's a huge
Is it
deal.
big?
It's a big deal. Well, for
the
me,
biggest deal of comedy.
It's the biggest deal from my comedy career. And that is next year. I'm doing my first national tour with a guy named Johnny W. You can find him at Johnny, JONNIEW.com. And so we're going to be hitting the road next year, going to a whole bunch of cities. And so obviously go to my website. It's all there. And all the information about it will be on there as well. And so if I'm coming to a town near you, I would love for you to come out and see me, me and Johnny. And the cool thing too is, you can even help. We're still in the process of adding dates to that tour. So if you have a venue or your church or a theater locally in your city, in your area, you have some contacts that you could help connect us with there. We would love to hit the whole country. And
business owners out there, if you're doing seminars like I do and conferences, I use Chris every time we have a conference. He does MC work, he does the comedy stuff, and so it's
my big three: MC, speaker, comedy, and I can intermix them, or I can do just the one. One of the fun things to do is MCing is a whole lot of fun, just being the guy who keeps things moving along and keeping it entertained and bringing up people and. I research, prepare for everything. So I'd love to do that as well.
So
look him up over at chrisruppe.com. It's RUPPE.com. Chris spelled CHRIS, RUPPE.com. We'll link to it in the show notes as well. But check him out over there. And it's a great way to reward your people that's coming to your seminars and your conferences to have a little bit of comical relief. And if you're a solopreneur like me, it's always nice to have someone that's another voice up there keeping things moving along like he does for our You Are Worth More conference. So that is cool. So look us up. I'm looking forward to this.
It's going to be fun. Make sure you share it. Help us out. Help us get the word out on it. Spread it out on your own social medias for us when we go live.
Yeah. So if you like comedy and you like breaking it down and nerding out on it and just looking for something to, stop staring at all the negativity out there and look at something that'll actually make you laugh, go over to WTF. Why is this funny? Podcast.fun.
And then don't forget, they can also learn new comedians to listen to.
New comedians will be over there.
Maybe you don't know who to listen to. We're going to show you.
Yeah, we might not be your cup of tea, but there'll be other people over there that you'll be exposed to that are maybe some of them are on a national level and some are just starting out, and you can sort of pick the rising stars as they come up. So check them out. Until next time, we will see you later.
Thank you for listening to our show today. If you have any questions or would like to speak with us about your goals, then please call or text us at 864-507-9696. Reach out to us online at terrywilson3.com.